Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day it is, wherever you are. Welcome to today's grain market blast. It's Monday, the 19th of May. As usual, you join myself, Ryan Paisley, and the wonderful Angie Setzer, where Angie will be providing a rapid roundup of the latest pricing flows and market moving news in agricultural markets. But before she does, and before I get told off for the late start and the scheduling issue this morning that I've had with my spaces, I will get the legals out the way. So as usual, nothing discussed on this Spaces session constitutes trading or investment advice or infers any kind of endorsement by PIQ, Angie Setzer, or myself, Ryan Paisley. Hello, happy Monday, Angie. How are you?
I am super. How are you doing? Happy Monday to you. I'm
Thank you.
excited to be here.
I'm okay. I was a little bit flustered then when I was trying to click start now, and I realised I'd actually booked it for Saturday, the 24th of May, and I was like, no, what's going on? I
I
was like,
love you, but we ain't doing it on Saturday either. That
yeah,
Saturday is the one day that I pretend that I have no idea what's going on in the world. Like I take my brain out Friday afternoon, like a wig off. You know what I mean? Like your grandma used to take her wig off, maybe mine did. And I put it away in some formaldehyde or something. I don't know.
yeah,
Just for a while.
yeah.
That's what
No,
I
we
do.
need one day off. We need one day off, and then Sunday's all
Yeah.
ahead.
Yeah. And then Sunday afternoon, I have to shove it back full of stuff. So here we are.
Yeah,
Happy
exactly.
Monday. Lots to talk about today. First things first, I'm going to start with the Russia-Ukraine peace talks. Because Friday afternoon, for some reason, I had several different people kind of message me and be like, so with the positive progress in the peace talks, and I'm like, whoa, are the positive peace talk progresses in the room with us? Because I did not see anything that was really like, woo, that was awesome. Outside of they did agree to swap like 1,000 prisoners. So I'm not going to say that that's not good. Secretary of State
No.
Rubio was like, hey, it wasn't all for naught. Like we're going to have these prisoners be swapped out. I'm not 100% sure. There's some horror stories out of kids and things like that, out of orphanages and some of that stuff I don't want to get into. So hopefully maybe they're addressing that side of
Yeah.
things. But beyond that, I think Russia kind of just reinforced that you are negotiating, and this isn't a political statement. I think it's just obvious from any one that's raised a child. You're negotiating with a 3-year-old. Like at this point, like if you give them the monster truck, they're going to want the other monster truck too, and that's really where Russia's at right now. Like I think they basically said, hey, we want a lot of territory that we actually don't even have. Like we don't really we haven't gotten that territory, but we'd like Ukraine to leave it. Bye.
Yeah. Yeah.
And everyone was like, yeah, positive trade, peace talks. I'm like, what the hell? Because really Russia just continues to reiterate they want more than anything. The initial meeting was a meeting of take the blame for what you did, sort of perspective when it came to, Ukraine and the West. Like they're kind of saying this is the West's fault still, the NATO stuff. If we are going to have a ceasefire, then we need to freeze the flow of weapons. Just several things that are kind of a non-starter, I would say at this point. But yeah, for some reason, everyone said that wheat was down on Friday because of that. To me, I would say it was more of a weather thing than anything. There was some rain that had shown up in the week 2 forecast for Europe. Obviously, more rain in the forecast for some of the drier parts of the southern plains and things like that. Though at this point in time, once we've hit this point in the growing season, southern plains and eastern corn belt, rain is fine, but like we're hitting the point where it's not fine. Like you need to be able
Yeah.
to harvest the crop. And so we'll see, what we'll see there. But we do have the Trump Putin call this morning, as scheduled at 10 a.m. So maybe we'll see some progress there. Trump is going to, this all just came out here. He's going to call Zelensky when the Putin call, concludes. And then it'll be interesting to see what happens if we get the EU the green light to kind of do what they're saying they want to do, which is issue a whole other package of sanctions. If Putin doesn't respond, like, can Trump hold back the Senator Graham bill there that has some pretty substantial sanctions in it as well, against Russia? Does it really matter? Who knows? Stay tuned. We'll see. But that'll be the biggest thing right now, is just kind of seeing how today goes on. But if you're expecting some sort of snap your fingers and we get peace without massively major concessions out of Ukraine, which are very unlikely at this point, I would not be holding my breath. So that's my take on that currently.
No, I bet you're right. Yeah.
So, step two is just our trade updates, and we have a slew of them. Currently speaking, we've seen some different things. We actually just had some headlines come out from China. They're kind of pushing back on some of these chip controls. There's just been kind of this conversation, still where they're like, hey, the US is picking on us. We don't like it. Please stop doing it. The chip export controls, they're kind of pushing back against. Like, I think there's just a lot of stuff that's going on there where it's kind of the same sort of thing. And I think that's what really everyone's going to continue to struggle with is like you have one step forward, two steps back. And really we had this agreement with China that we were going to kind of open the door to different things. And China is saying, hey, like you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. But then like I said, they also are going to open the door to rare earth material exports. And so it's just kind of a mixed bag of what is good and what isn't. They did issue a new anti-dumping rule over the weekend as well on some plastics, but that wasn't just the US. It was US, EU, Taiwan, and a handful of others, and so we're watching what China is doing, but we're not really seeing much in the way of what anyone would consider super mega solid progress. So the administration continues to be pretty positive about it or whatever. One of the things that we did see here that is of interest, or I feel like that, is kind of maybe going to have folks' attention and perhaps kind of pile on to the return of the Sell America trade, and that is that the administration's basically said like, hey, we're dealing with like 18 countries. Remember we were dealing with 230 or whatever he said we were? Like we were dealing with 200 or 109, whatever. Anyway, now we've got 18 of them. And they're the good ones. They're the ones that we like. Everyone else is soon to get a letter where it says that you're not negotiating in good faith, and here's what your tariff rate's going to be. So basically, the administration at this point is saying that, hey, if you're not negotiating with us, if we don't like what you're doing, we are going to send you a letter, and you're just set. That's what it is. We're done negotiating. We're done doing the 90 days doesn't matter. You're going to be 46% or whatever whatever you were determined in the first place because we don't like you. And maybe it's higher. Who knows? Like it's a rate that President Trump is going to pick. And so, that'll be one of those things that we'll have to pay attention to because we don't even really know at this point who's getting it and who isn't.
Yeah.
Japan has been surprising. Japan was one of the first ones that were going to sign the deal, right? If you listen to any of the administration members, like they were going to come in with great gusto and sign right up. And now Japan's like, we are not going to sacrifice our national interests for the U.S. Like we're kind of taking a bit more of a hardline stance, you could say. And so it'll be interesting to see just, how you see this administration continue to work on some of these things and what they determine, is a good faith negotiation or whatnot. I saw some jokes this morning amongst you and our good friend, Mr. Brown there, about the golf courses and things. And as much as I want to say that that's probably not likely, that probably is very, like,
Yeah, right.
there's,
Nothing would surprise me at this
yeah,
rate. Well,
ways to,
we had talk this morning, or headlines this morning about potentially a Trump Tower going up in Saigon.
yes.
That's something potentially linked to the trade deal that way. So yeah, nothing is off the table, it
At this
seems.
point right now, yeah, there's a ton of things to be watched and a ton of things to be paying attention to. But I would say probably the most surprising one is the Japan, coming out and taking a pretty hardline stance. But I don't think they had a choice. I think, us trying to
Right.
push them with China and China really kind of being like, hey, we're your biggest trade partner. Go ahead
Yeah.
and F around and find out, see what,
But and also it shouldn't be that much of a surprise because they have been kind of whispering about this or just making kind
yes.
of angry kind of
And we've talked about
com-
it a bit too. Like South Korea has already said from the start that they were going to stimulate their economy. Like they'll take the hit initially with the trade and some of these
yeah.
other things, and they'll just stimulate their economy.
Well, this is it, and South Korea did say from the start, that's a great one to bring up. They were like, "Look, we've got massive, we nearly had a coup
Yes, yeah, yeah,
not so
yeah,
long ago."
yeah.
They were saying,
We're
"Look, you've got to wait for us to kind of vote in an acting government because at the moment they're kind of a little bit rudderless."
yes,
They said, "Look, no one we can't agree to anything, trade related because this is like really impactful. So we're going to have to wait until we've got a functioning government."
yes,
And I think maybe because I've not heard much pushback on this from the administration, from the Trump administration, I get the impression that they're kind of fine with that.
with the South
But
Korea
again,
one. Yeah,
yeah, but South Korea.
because
So
South
maybe
Korea
they'll
is also actively pushing everyone in the air. Remember, they're telling Vietnam and Japan, like, hey, you guys hurry up and come up with a trade deal too. I think
yeah,
that's part of it. But yeah, it's interesting just to see the dynamic and the inner
yes.
personal, relationships that we have, and where there's
Yeah.
inroads and where there isn't. And and I do think that we may have underestimated the amount of stimulus that some of these countries are like. Do you take a hit in your economy that is X, or do you take the forecasted hit and just kind of work to support your businesses that'll be directly impacted? And I think you're seeing that some of these countries are just like, fine, we'll take the tariff hit that'll probably impact the U.S. consumer, which, Trump had said over the weekend that Walmart and China needed to split the tariffs, not the consumer, though Walmart and China are both looking at each other like, LOL, like that's not how this works, but okay. To a certain extent, obviously. But yeah, there's a lot of there's a lot of news that we should see, but a lack of news to a certain extent as well, right? Like we're just not really getting anywhere. We're getting some frameworks and things like that, but nothing big. Vance, our friend JD, there is going to be meeting today with the EC president, the European Commission president, and our friend from Italy, our Italy's prime minister. Or no, they met. I think they met over the weekend or something. They're going to be meeting, or they have been. Either way, limited progress. So it's just one of those things. They were supposed to be speaking also to our friends in Canada, and I think we have a G7 meeting this week. So that'll be interesting after the Moody cut to the U.S. sovereign debt, which is good and also well above my pay grade. But has kind of brought it. I'm like, God damn it! Now I have to know how bonds work and shit. Like
Yeah.
this is not what I signed up for. I just want to handle white weed. Okay, like that's it. But so we've got a lot of other things that are going on. That leads me to kind of point three, which is, what do we see happen here with the return of the Sell America trade? We've got money flow and things that we've been watching lately, and so when we initially saw Sell America, so remember way back in April, right after Liberation Day, it feels like a freaking
Oh, yeah.
eternity ago.
How many
Um,
years ago was that?
yes, there's several years ago, and dog weeks it was 80. But yeah, so we basically, had seen the Sell America trade where you saw the S&P and all the outside markets, the equity markets just absolutely fall apart. The dollar absolutely fell apart. Anything that was, American based or American centric was getting hit with the sell button. And that's what we saw. And during that time you saw basically a recovery in grains, right? Money flow moved into grains. Now part of that was optimism over trade and some of these other things, which is kind of missing at this point in time, you could say. But I will be interested to see, because we did see, funds were far larger sellers of corn than what we had anticipated. You're looking at the fund positioning is now pretty short as we head into what is seasonally a very, very,
Yeah.
risky time period with weather and things like that. And really they've also run out of ammo to a certain extent. You saw them sell off into the last half of the week last week. They continued to sell and the market didn't move. And so to me, I like to see the speculator continue to try to pile into a position and the market be like, cool. We're not doing that anymore. Like, that's it. Like you just pile balls deep into this thing and you got 5 cents. Congratulations. Like, that's it. And so that's kind of what you saw at the end of the week last week. That'll be one of the things that I'll be paying attention to if I were a speculator, which I'm not, because I'm bad at it and I never want to jinx the market. Like, I never want to jinx my customers. You know what I mean? Like, I'm never going to take a trade because I'm not great anyway. But if I were a speculator, I'd be a little nervous with all that is going on in the world today. With the drop in the dollar, it's helping to cheapen up U.S. corn. U.S. corn is still exceptionally competitive through the end of the year. U.S. wheat, new crop export sales pace currently is about 35% better than what it would need to be or what you would typically see for this point in the year. And we're about 2 weeks before the new crop year starts for wheat. You're seeing a bunch of tenders come into play. You're seeing some worry over quality, which we talked about, right? You're going to hear more and more about the quality issues developing in wheat. I can pretty much guarantee that, looking at the forecast and looking at how close we are to harvest in some of these places and how they just keep getting inundated with rain. In addition, there's going to be some areas in the Eastern Corn Belt that are going to start to talk about needing to replant and maybe taking into consideration whether they will or not. Like, we're looking at 435 cash corn, or futures, excuse me. Cash is sub $4 in some of these places for new crop. Like, you're looking at taking a massive hit and making a decision of whether or not you're going to replant in the Eastern Corn Belt, maybe after Memorial Day at the pace we're going. Like, the market is going to start to pay attention to there being some pretty pretty big issues. Now, we always pay attention to the Western Corn Belt because it's Iowa, Nebraska, blah, blah, blah. They're dry. They're going to get good rains. But we really need to watch what's happening in the Eastern Corn Belt, especially because we were short a year ago. And there's some major problems that are starting to develop, and the prices suck. So they aren't going to encourage people to push it. And so that's going to be the thing we're going to watch. Lots happening this week. I expect this week to be a good one. So go ahead, write that down. You can hold me to
Oh
it.
no. Oh
Yeah.
no. Oh
I
God.
know. I just effed up big time on that one, guys. Buy your puts
No.
now. But yeah, I am anticipating. I think there's some stories that are going to hit. And now, granted, we could get a turd in the punch bowl with a trade headline or a bad deal and that sort of thing.
That's a new one. That's a new one.
If we do, avoid it and just focus on the other stuff. But there's a lot to be paying attention to. Wheat currently, we just started. We're 3 minutes in. Wheat is up 11. Kansas City wheat's up 12. Spring wheat's up 4. New crop beans are trying real hard to trade higher. July beans are down about a penny. July corn's up 5.5. New crop corn's up about 3.5 as well. And yeah, I mean, giddy up, put your helmet on, all that fun shit, because it's going to be it's going to be a crazy week, and I think wheat's probably going to be the catalyst.
Exactly that. And just quickly on Trump's phone call with Putin, whilst we've been on air, I've seen from the White House, they've said that Trump's going to speak with Putin at 10 a.m. Eastern time. We knew that already. But then he's going to go straight onto a call with Zelensky after his Putin call concludes. And then apparently we're going to hear from Trump or White House
On
after the
what's
call.
going on.
So,
Ooh.
in headline kind of
Stay tuned. But yeah, if anyone tells you that even remotely, if the trade talk, like I would put the trade talks when it comes to influence on wheat, on a scale of 1 to 10, I would put it at a 1.5 at this point. Like it's an easy excuse for someone who's not necessarily paying attention to be like, oh, wheat must be lower on that. It's not that. And maybe I'm being too to Angie in my assertion of that, and I'm okay with it, but like let's just let's slim it down a bit with the positive. I mean, like I would love to see it, but I think we're a long way off. We also just an update from our friends at PIQ who just tweeted Brazil's ag minister says if there are no new bird flu cases in 28 days, Brazil would be considered bird flu free. So fingers crossed for them. In the end, that really doesn't mean a whole lot. Their poultry exports are going to be limited for a while, at least probably over the next 3 days, it looks like, or 30 days, 28 days plus. So you're going to have some issues there with like flow of that or whatever, but it's not like they're out calling their entire flock and cutting feed demand or what. Like everyone needs to calm down. You can freeze meat, you guys. Like you can, if flow of meat trade is interrupted, you can freeze it. I promise.
Yeah, no, exactly that. Well, Angie, thank you so much as always for being wonderful. Again, I apologize for the couple of minutes late start there on my human error. Listeners, we thank you as always for tuning in, and hopefully we will see you all tomorrow. Take care.
We will be here. Have a good one, guys.